Hello and welcome to the 6th edition of the Cloud Native Talks. Today, Piotr Bochynski will show us how to modernize your applications on a cloud native fashion with Kyma. And yes, that means a demo.
Okay, that's it.
No, no. My name is Eliza and I'll be your host for this event. Our speaker, Piotr Bochynski, has been working in software development for many years, always involved in this research and development topics. For the last 8 years, he's been building cloud services as a developer and an architect. Currently works in an open source Kyma project as a chief product owner. Please note the following upcoming events. During summer, we plan to organize more cloud native talks. We will post more information soon, so stay tuned and follow the Cloud Native and Kubernetes community on social media. All links are in the description below the video. Of course, you can buy tickets to the Cloud Native Warsaw conference, which will be on the 9th and 10th of September. There are workshops alongside the conference where you can learn Kubernetes and Go. Thanks to the generosity of our sponsors, we still have tickets to the conference with a 50% discount, especially for our community. So you can find the special discount code in the description below the video. And now, welcome Piotr and his presentation.
Hello, guys. Yeah, so I already said hello in the YouTube chat. I hope you can see that. I would like to have some interactive session, of course, if you wish, so we can ask questions in the chat. I will try to watch them also in the meantime and answer them. Today's topic is how to modernize your application in a cloud native fashion. So cloud native is a hot topic. You are here because you are interested in that topic. Kubernetes is just the example. Cloud native is much bigger word. And today I will give you a guide how we in Kyma project see how we can bring this cloud native world to the applications you have in your house, in your company, and you have to somehow modernize and maintain. And it's not your greenfield development that you always have the possibility to choose the environment you work, but you need to work with the applications that exist for a longer time. So first, I would like to introduce you Kyma to you. Kyma, what it is? Kyma is an open source project designed for Kubernetes. So we do not hide Kubernetes. Kyma is built on top of Kubernetes and contains a lot of applications from the cloud native landscape that are heavily used in the Kubernetes world. We added a couple of things on top of Kubernetes to make extensibility of applications easier. What does Kyma mean? Kyma is a Greek word meaning wave. So we are following the Greek convention in Kubernetes world. So Kubernetes is a Greek name for the pilot, for the guy who is driving the ship, and Kyma is a wave. So it's it works together. And what challenges Kyma actually solves? In few sentences, I would like to justify why we started the project at all. So first of all, the challenge that we address is that in average company, you have too many systems with different infrastructure, with different products from different vendors, and integrating them and extending them is just the hard task. With these systems also the risk comes. Yeah, so you have many scenarios, and you want to learn something by doing, and sometimes you can destroy some applications during this learning curve. Sometimes it's also slow. So if you have in-house some monolith applications or not modern applications that are developed as microservices, development cycle can be long and heavy. So adding new features can cause that you need to wait a month, maybe quarter for the next release to see your improvements or your extensions. Other things that we are targeting and we want to simplify is complex access to the services, both from cloud providers and from for services that are hosted on premise in your data center. So we heavily use service catalog concept to really manage these services in the simple and easy way. Another thing somehow mentioned before, monoliths get too big, so it's not only slow to develop that, but sometimes it becomes just unmanageable. So complicated number of steps that you need to apply in order to deploy your application, and changes are really spread across the big code base. This is really something you do not want to deal with, especially if you have many such systems. So this is really complex stuff. And the final thing that if you want to get rid of these monoliths and go to the cloud native and develop your applications, your new features, it's going to the cloud native world is not also easy. Kubernetes itself is a complex beast. All the other applications that are in the Kubernetes CNCF landscape, so Cloud Native Computing Foundation landscapes, are complex. There are also 700 applications projects listed on the landscape of Cloud Native, and picking the right one is also the complex task. So we have some recipe how you can address all these challenges with Kyma project. How do we do that? First of all, we introduce the concept of application connector. What is it? Application connector is something we developed as an abstraction that allows you to treat your legacy application, your monolith, or your application from external vendors as a service, like a cloud service mainly. So you can have instances of that applications injected in your Kubernetes environment. You can see the event stream from these applications. You can call the APIs of these applications in easy and secure way. So we establish kind of trusted connection to that applications, and we bring the developers just convenient way to interact with this application without taking care about the security, getting tokens, setting up client certificate or other credentials. This is done by application connector. Another thing we introduce is serverless. We have so serverless is the buzzword #1 right now in the industry. But what we do is we treat our extensions as functions you want to deploy, and you can easily use also Kubernetes cluster to host these functions, so you can focus on the business logic, write the code, and then the deployment, the operations is just scheduled by the serverless engine on top of Kubernetes cluster. Right now, we are cooperating with the Knative project. If you know that project, it's a project started by Google that is offering the serverless framework for Kubernetes and also for standalone usage like Google Cloud Run, and we have it also in Kyma. And the last pillar of our features is the service management. So in this area, we integrated Kubernetes service catalog. So this is the implementation that brings providers that implement Open Service Broker API into Kubernetes. You can see the catalog of services from different cloud providers and provision them, instantiate them, bind them to your code easily without really taking care about all the complexity and related to that part. And one slide about the architecture. So now you can see how Kyma is built, what are the boundaries of Kyma. So on the left-hand side, you can see the applications that we integrate. So this is any business solution, an on-premise application, and a cloud application you want to interact with, extend it. And through the application connector, we import events from that application, and we enable calling APIs of these applications with easy way. And of course, you are able to call API hosted in the Kyma, in the Kubernetes cluster, also from this application in the safe way. On the right-hand side, you have any open service broker service provider. So right now we have open service brokers for Azure, for AWS, and for Google. So all these three big hyperscalers have open service brokers that expose the services they offer in the consistent API that is consumable by service catalog. And so combining applications and the cloud services in your code. So you run the function here on top of Knative. If you combine all these things, you need to just write this code here, and you don't have to really touch the on-premise solution or any solution monolith applications to really realize some extensibility scenarios. Of course, on top of that, we have a lot of things that are coming with the best applications from cloud native landscape. So, for example, whatever you write in the business logic, it's running together with Prometheus, Grafana, Jaeger, Istio Service Mesh, and other components that really gives you the observability, monitoring, logging, and for example, managing external access, so micro API gateway. These things are you are getting for free. We in Kyma project just integrate all these best tools in this cloud native landscape into nice suite that you can easily use. And Kyma is you can say regular Kubernetes application. So we have operator that installs Kyma in the Kubernetes cluster, and we can run on any Kubernetes cluster actually. So we have compatibility plans for GCP and Azure. For managed clusters, so GKE and AKS, we can run also on any Kubernetes cluster that is in the version 1.12 or above. So this is yeah, the prerequisite, the requirements we have. I think that that's main point of the architecture. And yeah, so what Kyma does is really gluing all these components from cloud native landscape, plus couple of things like application connector that simplify their usage. But we do not write own components too many own components. Yeah, because we believe that for certain aspects there are already best components available, and we do not have any need to write them again and again. So for example, we do not want to have own path or infrastructure. We utilize Kubernetes. For authentication, we use a DEX component initially coming from CoreOS, and right now it's given to the community. For integration of API, we use Open API specification. Open API, you probably know it as a name of under the name of Swagger. Async API is the new specification that is bringing the same standard to asynchronous APIs, so event-based APIs. And Open Service Broker is was already mentioned, is used in Service Catalog to provision services. Of course, in the monitoring, we believe that Prometheus and Grafana is the solution that is top one, I think, top two solution existing in the landscape. We also integrated in Kyma Grafana Loki for logging and Jaeger for tracing calls. We use Minio to store content, so this API specification, documentation that you have for your services are stored there. We use Istio as a service mesh, which brings our, apart from the mentioned before, API micro gateway, mutual TLS, so security in the cluster, and all this observability, so you see the traffic without writing any code. And of course, we have also eventing in the Kyma. So Kyma is based mainly on asynchronous programming models. So we believe that this is a way to go with asynchronous workload in the Kubernetes cluster, because it scales better. And we integrated Knative project mentioned before, and we also contributed to Knative NATS as a messaging system, which we believe is really nice solution. Now, time for extensibility scenario and how all these components can be used in the maybe not real world scenario, but the scenario that is easy to explain. So let's assume that we have some requirements for the extensibility. I want to have a blog for my products. This blog will be WordPress based. I want to have in my blog site, I want to publish in comments immediately, but only those with the positive message. I want to scale my code horizontally. I want to have monitoring, tracing, a nice dashboard, and I can't write PHP code, which for WordPress can be difficult. If you want, you can help me in this demo. Going to the WordPress demo Kyma Pro, you have QR code here, and maybe I can even pass the link in the chat in the meantime. And I have in that site already blog WordPress site published, and I will show you how we can do that with Kyma. In the meantime, I see some question from the audience. I will read it. If I understood correctly, in this case, monolith application is not migrated to cloud, but your solution integrates with it by application connector, and only Kyma is running in cloud. Yes, that's right. The application connector can connect to that application, which is running on premises, but you can also host the application in the cloud, of course, as if the application itself allows on that. Yeah, so there are many applications in the world that are not so easily deployed to the cloud. But my example, I will show in a minute, WordPress. Actually, I hosted it in the cloud also, so it's hosted also on the Kubernetes. So you are not limited, but we focus on connectivity to that application, not hosting the application itself. I hope that I answered that question. Let me switch quickly to the live demo. So I have here Kyma installed, and this Kyma instance has the code to do the scenario I presented in the requirements. So let me navigate to the WordPress site I wanted to show you. So there is a link to the WordPress. I will paste in the YouTube channel also. And in you can if you go to, I will maybe show that WordPress site. So this WordPress has one blog post, Cloud Native Docs number 6. So this is self advertisement, and you can comment underneath that blog post, and only positive comments should be present. So give some feedback to my talk that you don't like it. And let's see if such comment will appear on the site. So you see when I refresh the page, your comment is awaiting moderation. I hate it, got score -1. So actually it's not going to be published. This is what I wanted to achieve in the short demo, but demo is more for entertaining, so we can try on your own how artificial intelligence of positive and for judging if the message is positive or negative works. Now I will switch quickly to the code and show you how I did it and what is required on the Kyma side to enable that stuff in WordPress. Okay, so this is the main view you end up when you install Kyma. So Kyma gives you also nice web UI. All the things you do in Kyma, you can also do from command line, from kubectl and Kyma command line. I will come back to that later. But this UI actually, I think, is really cool and allows you to manage your extension logic and your binding to applications from this in the convenient way. So let's start with how this Kyma instance actually knows about WordPress. Yeah, so in the applications section, I have the WordPress application created. And this WordPress application is serving some APIs and serving some events, and is bound to the namespace, to the default namespace. What does it mean that it is bound? That it means that we have possibility that applications can be really connected to some namespaces, so we can have some isolation. You can imagine that you have some maybe development environment in one namespace and stage environment in another namespace, and you want to have different applications, different environment, for example, bounded to different namespaces. How you can create new applications? This is really simple. You just create new one and provide the name and description. And later on, when you created it, to connect it to with our application connector, you need just click on the connect and you copy to the clipboard one-time token. This token is expiring quickly and can be used once. And this is the way how we establish trust with the application. On the WordPress side, we have also a connector that is provided that is exporting all the events and enabling API. You can install such connector to your WordPress from GitHub repository. We have hosted this Kyma connector on Kyma incubator site. I will point it later. How it looks in the WordPress settings, it's Kyma connector settings here, and you have just place to pass the token and press connect. I'm already connected, so I will not do that. So this is just one-click operation to pair that. When you have application in the Kyma, actually you can already write the code, and I will show you how this code looks like. So as I told you that we have serverless engine inside Kyma, and there is a section lambdas when you can list the functions I wrote. And here is the review function. So actually the function that does all this magic I shown a minute ago. And now I will try to maybe make it a little bit bigger so you can see the entire code in the YouTube video. So the function is really simple. So we have a couple of imports. Of course, I use sentiment npm package. So and this lambda is written in Node.js because I do not know PHP, I mentioned. And for Node.js, you have package for everything. So in case of sentiment, so checking what is the attitude of the message. There is also the package. With this is a simple library that just checks in the dictionary positive words and negative words, and hate is negative, love is positive, and then calculates the score, what is the balance of these positive and negative words. And that's what I used. And then I have just a couple of calls which are done during the event processing. So first I log the event data, so what I'm getting from the WordPress. Then second line is just getting the comment content by the ID of the comment, because in the event from WordPress you have only ID of the comment, so you need to retrieve that comment using WordPress API. Then I display the comment. Then I check what is the sentiment of this comment, so the positive or negative. I write this sentiment in the log, and if the score is greater than 0.2, I change the status to approved, and I update the comment. I have two helper functions, so get comment, which is retrieving the comment from WordPress, and another update comment, which is changing the status and adding this score to the comment text. And you can see here there are no credentials. I'm constructing comment URL as environment variable WordPress gateway URL / WordPress base path of API comments. ID of the comment I got, of course, from the event, and then I just return the response of WordPress. My WordPress is protected, so there are credentials required, token to access this WordPress, but the developer doesn't have to take care of that. And he just hits the WordPress gateway URL, and there is a proxy deployed in the application connector that is actually making sure that this is using right credentials. How does it work? This environment variable is injected to my code through the service bindings. What is a service binding? It's actually what I mentioned before as a service catalog functionality. In the catalog, I showed you first the application that that is created, but this application, when it's registered in the Kyma, appears also in the service catalog. And service catalog is the list of services that are available in my Kyma cluster. I connected to the services, all the services from Azure Broker. So you see a lot of Azure services, databases, other services like Azure Text Analytics. And except of that, there is also WordPress visible on in this service catalog, and this WordPress is actually already added to my namespace. Through the application connector, we can register this WordPress application in Kyma, and we can see the API. So you've seen that I used the API, but actually I used this endpoint here that is documented here. So developer is not left alone, that he has to figure out how to call the service. So he has this application, this WordPress service with all the APIs, and he can see also what is in the events. I use the event comment post, which contains comment ID and comment status. So this is how I know how to write this code. Going back to the, okay, maybe not going back yet. So I added this instance. So this instance is visible in the service instances, and this is this WordPress instance. And when I click that, when I added it to my namespace, I also bound it to the application. This binding causes that the application really is enabled to call the API and is receiving events. Bind application, you can get any deployment or service that is available in your cluster, Kubernetes cluster, and you can select it. So you see my functions, but also deployments, other things, and you can bind this this application to this instance to your function. That so this is the magic that is happening behind all these environment variables that are here, and here you have also the trigger for the function. So you see here, comment post is a trigger that I can use for invoking that function. You have a list of all the systems that trigger any events, and you can select which ones should actually execute your function. So short summary. You write the code, which is mainly, so in my case, is about 20 lines of code. If I remove locks and imports, it may be even less that is doing the stuff. And I just trigger it with the event that is coming from the application connector, and I am able to call the API through a secure gateway without taking care of any credentials. Yeah, so that was mainly the code. I will use maybe some time also to show you a different version, more complex version of that extensibility scenario. So here you have just static code for checking sentiment, probably you could use that directly in the PHP. No need maybe to have Kubernetes and all this stuff, cloud native, for such simple scenario. But you can imagine that you have more and more cases. So there are other things you want to do. So for example, you want to publish some messages in external systems. You want to use more sophisticated analytics, not this npm package for checking sentiment in English. So for example, Azure provides the service for text analytics that is able to recognize the language and then do the sentiment analysis in given language, in multiple languages. And maybe you want to use that functionality instead of this. How you would work with that? You can start with a new Lambda, new function or new service, because Kyma is also not limited only to serverless. You can deploy regular service, microservice, and a Docker container that is able to run in the Kubernetes can be deployed here and can have also all these things injected. So you can inject also services and call them from your own microservices, not only from functions. But imagine that you have also possibility to extend it a little bit, this scenario. So you want to publish the messages on the Slack channel, and you want to use Azure as an analytics engine to check if the comment is positive or not. So such thing can be done in the similar way. So this is the slightly longer version of my previous example. That is doing check on with the Azure services and is publishing comments on Slack. So maybe I will start from the short demo. So here I have a Slack open in the new window. 1 second, I will just bring that window to the screen. You see this. These are live. This is live stream of these comments you push to the to my article, to my blog post on WordPress, and you see that I am able, with the Azure services, analyze if this is English. So if the command is recognized as English, there is a Great Britain flag, and positive messages are marked with thumbs up and negative in the thumbs down. You see, this is nice Polish example of text of the comment. So it's not identified as English, and the meaning is negative in that case, and a couple of others are recognized as positive. So this is maybe not so positive, but is identified as positive. And couple of others also. Thank you, guys. You are really positive in the feedback. So not so many haters there. That's good. And just wanted to show you how this is different from the previous example. So I have some helper functions to check if it is English comment or it is positive comment. And in that case, I use text analytics from Azure. And again, it is just injected in my code as an environment variable. So I hit text analytics endpoint with languages or with sentiment. I pass the text from the comment. I will not go into the details because this is irrelevant for the presentation purpose, but it is not so complex to use that services. and then in the response I get if it is English or not, or it is positive or not, and then I build in the main function I build a Slack message. You've seen in the Slack, so this emoji is added. And I put that in the Slack message. And Slack message, to send a message to the Slack, I also use the binding. So I have environment variable published here that is hitting the Slack channel I presented. So no credentials here, everything injected, and it works with service catalog. So in that case, I used services from Azure, text analytics, and you see this is added, one instance is added here, and you see how you you have also a description of this services, how to provision, how to use that, and it's nice service. There is a free tier, so you can have 5,000 monthly transaction with no charging. So for this purpose, I used this plan when I provisioned this Azure Text Analytics in my Kyma cluster. That's mainly end of the live demo. I have a couple of things I wanted to mention about Kyma itself, and then we will conclude to the Q&A session if we have any. But yeah, so please prepare maybe some questions. A part of that, there is more functionality that is behind. So there is no only UI for Kyma. Everything that I did here, so binding applications or writing lambdas or anything else, is available from CLI. We use custom resources definitions from Kubernetes, so all our extensibility points like API micro gateway, like this service bindings are done as a custom resources for Kubernetes, so you can use kubectl to manage them. Other things, in the Kyma cluster itself, you have great documentation. It's hosted on the Kyma project IO also, but you can have it also in the cluster, because we believe that documentation is essential part of the code and all the things that developers produce. Even the greatest developers framework without documentation is not usable. And we have contextual docs, so we can have helpers also in given windows, in given places in the application. So I've shown you example for Azure Text Analytics. Here is example for Google Broker. We have monitoring built in. Yeah? So maybe this is something I want to also show you. So whatever you write, you have also the dashboard. So there is a dashboard that is automatically populated for your Lambda because we use Istio. So we have all this traffic information. There are now points where the Azure Lambda was invoked, and there is another in the same time both lambdas were invoked. You can see the memory usage, the response times, etc., and a couple of other statistics. And we have a lot of other dashboards that are really showing the health of the cluster itself. You have pods, you have entire service mesh dashboard. A lot of things are available here. Okay, so that was the monitoring integration. We have also tracing, so we have Jaeger integrated, so we can track how the messages, the events that are coming to Kyma are visible. It is also integrated, so you can see that in the UI. And yeah, we have other benefits. So for example, you can have Kyma Lite on Minikube. So we have also version that is not installing all the components, because we have a lot of components in Kyma to bring all this fancy stuff to you. But Kyma Lite is, for example, without this monitoring I've shown before, because in the local development probably you don't need that. You know what were your calls, and you can install it on the Minikube. We have Kyma CLI that is provisioning Minikube and installing Kyma. With 2 commands, you can have Kyma on your laptop. We have all this asynchronous eventing with Knative, which is abstraction, so you can plug in. So we have already nuts shipped with the Kyma, but you can have something else that is supported by Knative, for example, Google pops up instead. We have a micro API gateway, so you are able to expose your services, your Lambdas easily. So the WordPress, for example, I deployed on Kyma cluster is automatically exposed with the TLS certificate. So and it is done by API gateway we provide. We have also possibility to add items to the UI I presented to this console with the micro frontend approach. We use Luigi framework, which is also open source framework to compose your applications from many micro frontends. So you can have independent development of them. And yeah, I already mentioned this documentation, this API specs. So we store them in Asset Store, which is backed by Minio, but can be also backed by cloud service instead. And we have also Helm broker. So this is a part of our service catalog offering. So in the service catalog, you have also possibility to use Helm broker to instantiate services that have Helm charts. And we have built in Redis deployment that can be instantiated from the service catalog easily with the Helm broker. Helm broker itself is the topic for separate talk, I think, and I will not go too much into the details. And yeah, we with Kyma we do the real open source development. So it's not that we just host the code on the GitHub and it's available. We really have cooperation with the community. A Kyma project was born a year ago. Actually, yesterday we had one of our first birthday in the open source as a Knative project, and we develop it together with Google. So we have also our teams and our contributions there. We also contribute to async API specification. Our people are essential contributors there. And in the service catalog SIG from Kubernetes, we have our own members, and our colleagues one of our colleagues is even a chair in this special interest group of Kubernetes, and is member of the Kubernetes organization. And yeah, we encourage you to become a contributor. And everything is on the GitHub. So in the GitHub.com Kyma project/Kyma, you can fill the feature request, bug reports, or yeah, just pull request. And we are available on Slack. So there is CORE SIG that you can join on the Slack. And there is a link to that. And you can ask any questions on the Kyma Slack. I can even show you that this is really active thing. Where is my Slack channel? So it's maybe So you see that there is a couple of channels in the Slack. Installation, I think, is the one you will hit first, because this is something that people try first. Then there is general channel and SIG core channel that we have regular meetings, and you can talk with us really in person. So it's online meeting, and you can join. And here you have several announcements, etc. You can read, and you can join our community. So you see that there is about 700 people already in this Slack channel. And I wanted to show you also the GitHub page. So project Kyma is there. We have already 700 stars, and we ask for more. Okay, if you like it, please go there. And installation guide is really easy. And I mentioned you this Kyma and Kyma Lite. And if you want to install it locally with Minikube, there are really literally 2 commands to do, and you will have your own cluster on your local machine. And of course, you have installation steps on cluster. So I recommend you going with GKE or GCP Marketplace. You can we are there, so in the marketplace. So this is Google Cloud Platform Marketplace. If you search for Kyma, there is one result, and you can just deploy Kyma on your Google Kubernetes engine cluster with 2 clicks. So just you can select existing cluster and deploy Kyma there. And that's it. So yeah, you can easily start with Kyma. Just wanted to check if I have something more to add in the presentation. Yeah, so contributors are welcome. Kyma is quite stable right now, so we release every 4 weeks. 2 weeks ago, we had 1.3 release, so I recommend checking this version. And yeah, in 2 weeks we will get another one, 1.4, with new features. There is a huge development effort, and we have a lot of contributions and new features every 4 weeks. If you want to learn more, Kyma project.io is the page to go, where you find all the links to the Kyma project, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Slack, and GitHub. So that this could be your starting point. And that's it. So now time for question and answers. I will check quickly with the chat. Oh, we have one question.
Yes, we have one question. Is anyone using Kyma in real production use cases? Do you know of them?
Yes, and I have answer for that. So I mentioned this Kyma project.io with documentation, a lot of documentation. But if you go to the main site and you scroll down, you see early adopters. So there are a couple of companies that already use that solution, and one of them, Netconomy, is went production in May. So it was during the KubeCon, I think, when we've been there. So they went live with Kyma. A couple of other are close to that, and yeah, we are getting more and more customers right now in our commercial offering. So maybe one advertisement. So Kyma is an open source project, 100% open source. All you can contribute. You can become even a code owner here. But we have also commercial offering in SAP. So we have already several customers that are onboarded to the commercial offering, which is called SAP Extension Factory. The name is, but under the hood, this product is powered by Kyma open source project. So we have also commercial use cases, commercialized use cases in our company.
Okay. Does anyone have other questions? Please write them in the chat.
I think, yeah, we already.
You think that's like all the questions?
Anyway, if you have any questions, yeah, you can contact me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, whatever else channel, and of course Kyma Slack channel, where I'm also active member, and you can ask yeah, questions there.
Okay, something is like started, but not.
I just wanted to say hello to PK, Piotr Bochynski. Yeah. So I have one fun, and TYAI85.
Yeah.
Is
Okay.
writing something.
Okay. Could you please describe the process of migration from monolith to microservices? Is it possible to leave Kyma at the end of that process?
Yeah, so the migration from monolith to microservices, as we imagine, is more that you don't necessarily rewrite your application to the microservices. So there is some other way, so you can build new features aside of them. And this is something we do also in SAP. So you can believe or not, but in SAP we have also some legacy applications that are not born last year, and we have a lot of them that were that have rich history, and we enable them for cloud and microservices in the way I presented. So we build the connectors for them because it's easier. Yeah, so we can build the connector once for this application, and then all our customers can benefit and do not have to struggle with all these problems with monoliths, with risky deployments over and over again. So they can use that thing. If you can leave Kyma at the end of that process, yes, you can. So actually, Kyma is the bunch of open source components. All of them are open source, so we utilize existing components, and we have our own components, but also open source. So you can fork. If you don't trust us, you can build your own version and you can run it, or you can just also modify the way Kyma is installed. So Kyma is also modular. We have possibility to exchange some components, remove some components. So the example with Kyma Lite is the best example. So you can skip some components you don't like, and yeah, it will still work.
What you have integrated in SAP specifically?
So right now I'm working in the C for custom for the line of business which is customer experience, and we have integrated SAP Commerce as the first one, because this is SAP Commerce is developed here in Poland in the SAP office in Gliwice, so we have a good connection to those guys, and this is the first application. Others are SAP Marketing, and now we are integrating all the SAP Service Cloud and S4 stack, so all these ERP systems that SAP has in the offer, and others are coming, so they are just lines in the roadmap, but more and more. So couple of systems already there, couple on the way, and yeah, this is getting more and more.
Okay, now let's go back to this process of migration from monolith to microservices. How do you scale this way, this monolith?
So the scalability is more about if you imagine right now I write maybe this something more complex, more sophisticated than text analytics, which is relatively quick and is using external services. But you can imagine that for example, there is another story that we are working right now, which is related to another our SAP product, product content hub, which is managing products for commerce sites, and their case can be that, for example, you do resizing of the images in a cloud native way. So imagine that you have maybe some product catalog, and you have I don't know, hundreds, thousands of images, and you need to prepare thumbnails, images for a big view, for mobile view, whatever view, and you want to do that that feature you want to add to your product content. You can imagine that if you want to do that inside the application, you need to scale that application, this monolith application, even though that other features are not heavily used. So you build new feature, this image resizing, and you can externalize it, and you can use the power of Kubernetes. And if you have just I don't know, 100,000 images to rescale, you can really scale up Kubernetes cluster to do that job overnight, and then shrink down that cluster. And if you have just if you're adding a single image at the time, you can keep just 1-2 nodes of the cluster, and if the traffic comes up, you can instantiate up to infinite number of nodes, and then you can do that outside of the application. Of course, you need to be able to send this amount of events and have a proper scaling on to get these events and get these images probably from the source system. So this problem is not completely solved, but at least mitigated. So most of the load can be scheduled on the Kubernetes cluster, not directly.
Okay, and again, we're going back to this things that were integrated in SAP. Where's a SAP roadmap you mentioned before? Can you provide a link to it?
This roadmap, which applications are part, I can provide you a link later, because I have not this is a link in the SAP site, so it is not in the Kyma. I'm not prepared for that right now. I can send you later and as an update, maybe in the comment for this video. And for sure, you have one thing you can see is the roadmap of Kyma itself. Yeah, so this is here in the site, and you can see what is possible in different areas. So yeah, I will select one, and you see you have even some nice view in which release what is planned and what is planned in the future. And this is the live roadmap, because it is rendered from epics from GitHub. So you can see what features you can expect soon. We are still working a little bit on that, so not all the things we are thinking about are already in the GitHub. So not everything is there. More things will come soon. So, but your feedback is also welcome. Yeah? So if you see some features that are missing, you want to have them, please contact us on Slack, on GitHub, fill the feature request. We are really open, and we react on the people's demand. Yeah.
Okay, I don't see more questions. Do you have others?
Okay. Don't be shy.
Yes, don't be shy. And for the information, we will post all necessary links that were mentioned in this presentation or in the Q&A session tomorrow in posts and below the video when it uploads as a video to watch in YouTube, because now we have a live broadcast. And then we will have it in the form of video on the YouTube channel. I don't see more questions.
Okay, then thank you guys
Yeah.
for joining, and yeah, let's stay in touch.
Yes. Thank you all, and all. As I said, all links will be posted, and you can always contact Piotr on social media and ask him directly. Thank you very much for today. Bye.
See you.